All right, so up next is Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, which was nominated by @BluesDance on Twitter. It was developed and published by Broderbund and released for everything in 1985, 1986, around that range. I think it was updated again in 1989 and probably had to be updated again for the CD-ROM after the
This game is like 5 or 6 completely unique
collapse
versions.
of the Soviet Union kind of put a big monkey wrench in that, didn't it? Although I don't know whether it really affected anything. You just got an updated world atlas map fact thing.
It wasn't one of those games that was originally released for the Apple II.
Was it?
Well, that was one of the very few first systems, if not the original. It came out around the time for MS-DOS, the Commodore 64.
You know, it probably came out simultaneously for Apple II and DOS. And
yeah.
Because when you look at the box, this is back when they used to have little stickers on the front that would just have it would just tell you which version it was. And the box would otherwise be the same. And it came with like a multi-purpose manual that had instructions for all the different, like at least 4 different platforms or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's what the manual did because that's what I was looking at. It had Apple II installation instructions on it as well as DOS.
But yeah, just to say real quick, I'm not going to go on like all the differences because that would take forever, but I'm pretty sure it's like 5 or 6 unique versions of this game.
But they're not.
I'm not talking like ports. I mean,
terribly different, right? None of them add like actual new gameplay elements.
Actually,
one of them,
if you're probably like the weirdest version is the Master System version because it's somewhat more of a game. Like people actually you actually have like a character you move around on the map, and people actually come out and shoot at you, and you have to dodge it.
Yeah, you have to jump and or duck knives and or bullets until the suspect gets caught. That's a weird element that they put into it, and my thoughts on it are sort of mixed because
these kids are learning too much.
Hey,
stimulate them.
That's a good point. Because before it was just completely conducted through menus in most versions, which I guess might be seen as boring for those who own consoles. Like computers were considered to have more like thinking man's games until the Prince of Persia came around. Mostly cerebral quiz stuff, edutainment like this. Math Blasters, for example, I guess that was around that time. But I'm not sure if we wanted to get into the differences too much so soon, but that's like the big one there.
So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of like this and Oregon Trail are sort of like the ultimate edutainment games, 80s edutainment games. They are like the reason why computer labs existed in elementary schools for a long time.
I would say this one was a little bigger because unlike Oregon Trail, which is very American, where in the world in Carmen Sandiego? Hey, look. Not everyone can live in the glorious Republic of the United States.
Like a palette swap and just pretend it's Australia and you're subjugating and destroying
the Burke and Wills Trail. Nobody wants to do the Burke and Wills Trail. That was not a happy adventure. Everyone dies at the end. That's what happens. Carmen Sandiego, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? That was a game that works anywhere. You could be any language, anywhere. You can play Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego because it's a global spanning adventure that teaches you about stuff.
About countries that aren't the United States.
It also teaches you about the United States. It doesn't care. It teaches you as much as it
one
can.
Part of the United States. New York City, which is like the least representative of the rest of the country.
It's the most and least at the same time, in a way.
It has nothing to do with the rest of the country.
Well, I mean, okay, I don't know, because we played, or at least I played the Windows 95, Windows 3.1 version. Like, I think that's the last major version they released is the one that I played.
That's what I played, too.
Probably had a couple more cities in it then, I guess.
It didn't have cities, but they mention... Like, lots of characters will mention, like, locations. Like, they mention the Yukon Trail, which is in Canada, but you don't actually go to the Yukon Trail. You go to some just arbitrary part of Canada. I can't remember which city you end up in. But it basically, lots of characters will mention locations and things that are not at the city you visit. So I guess we should probably explain why you're visiting cities.
Yeah, what's this game about? What is this?
This game is like, it's an edutainment game. It's basically kind of like menu-based. It involves a lot of looking at books and other reference material. Or if you're playing it now, typing stuff into Wikipedia.
Yeah, I feel like if this game came out now, you'd give you like a mini web browser you'd have to use.
Well, I didn't want to really jump forward that far, but I was going to say there's a reason they don't make this game anymore, I think, and it's basically because it's rendered obsolete by the internet.
So, right. So, I mean, the interesting thing about this game is it came packaged with two things, I think. One was the instruction manual, which also included like a dossier on about around 10-ish separate criminals, and it would tell you stuff about those criminals, like what their likes and dislikes are. It's kind of like a criminal dating service, really, because it just had like all their like, this is what they're interested in, and this person likes to go mountain climbing, and these 5 people like Mexican food, and that kind of thing.
I think my favorite clue, one that I kept getting a lot, was that this perp doesn't like dangerous sports. That apparently indicates that croquet is their hobby. So.
Croquet can be pretty dangerous. I mean, the game involves gigantic mallets.
Have you seen the cover to Nursery Crime by Genesis? That girl is using human heads as croquet balls. It's effed up.
Wow, that Genesis. Definitely worth listening to now.
Is that a shot? I genuinely like them. You dumped on Jethro Tull and Genesis, dude. Come on.
What? Whose dad are you? Why do you like this music?
You like the Beatles. They're older.
Everybody likes the Beatles. Everybody also likes Sunshine.
Jethro Tull, the Beatles. It's where in the world is
So Carmen Sandiego is an entertainment game.
So you'll find out at the beginning you are a member of the Acme Detective Agency, which is, I guess, how crimes get solved now. And
it's kind of like Interpol that doesn't have to obey any international laws.
It used to be Interpol.
Did it?
You have to. You go to like Interpol bases or something, or you contact Interpol to get warrants and stuff. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. So you'll get like each session or something of the game starts out with say, the Staten Island ferry has been stolen somehow from New York City.
How does that work? Like, do they have like a tractor beam or what?
Well, one of them steals the Yeti, I think, right? So I don't know. There's all kinds of logistics here that I'm not really sure.
I love that. It's one of my favorite parts of the game is they steal the most ludicrous things, just like giant staircases from famous monuments and stuff. And
it's just
they
steal entire buildings at some point. I can't remember.
From Canada, they steal the recipe for maple syrup.
They steal like things that are like abstract. Like I think when I was playing it, they stole kind of like a tunnel or something, so people could not physically get from place to place. And it's just like, what? Man, how do you steal air?
Kind of like Wile E. Coyote style. You go through the tunnel and then you kind of hang a hook on the end of it as you go out, and it just pulls the whole thing inside out.
I was going to say that's a pretty vile thing to do. Then I remembered you're fighting.
Oh yeah, they're all agents
syndicate.
of Vile, which is I think probably it's pretty Get Smart-esque.
It does have this sort of Get Smart or James Bond-ish sort of definitely a love letter to those sort of spy things, right. But very much toned down for kids. Nothing is very heinous or anything. It's just very, very lighthearted.
Not a lot of sexual innuendo in the.
They do shoot guns and throw knives at you. That's kind of
that depends on the early versions, right? Different versions have different threats. The late 95, 94 release doesn't. You don't get shot at. I definitely think they might have toned it down a bit to try and encourage schools and stuff to stock it, because I don't think schools probably wanted games where kids get stabbed with knives. That's probably, not.
I don't think you get stabbed, though. It's just like a knife just flies into the wall, and that's how you know you've gotten close.
Yeah.
It's just a cute little animation thing. But anyway, the whole game is built around discovering clues. And basically, you're just, at least in this version of the game, you're just trying to find two sets of clues. One is the clue to where the bad guy went to next. And usually it's I saw them get on a yacht with a blue and white flag on it or something. You're just oh, what? And so you look at your World Almanac, which is the other book that came with the game, including I think even the Super Nintendo version of the game or something. No, maybe not. Maybe that had an in-game almanac. But I know one of the Carmen Sandiego NES games came with this giant book, and so the box is actually kind of weirdly shaped.
I know the 95 version actually has an in-game almanac, which is why I would prefer to play that version over any other.
Although, like I said, you could just use Wikipedia, which is...
Well, yeah, I mean,
to be fair, this is a game for 10-year-olds, so a lot of the stuff in it you'll probably be able to figure out on your own.
If you've had a formal education in the United States of America, you will probably have learned.
How do they educate you in Australia where you don't know, like...
I legitimately played the version that I played, like the 95's Windows. I legitimately played that game in school, in primary school.
I'm sure you guys were dying to know. VILE stands for Villains International League of Evil.
It was evil! We did it!
Villains International League of Evil.
Yeah,
International. Oh, I see. Like Villains International League of Evil.
Yeah, but it's not Villi-O. It's they just don't include
Villains International. So it's like probably a merger between the Villains International Inc.
The League of
League of Evil LLC. Yeah.
You have to profile your criminal while you track
so
down.
You try to figure out. So they'll give you clues. Like I saw them. Like you'll talk to when you get to a new city. As long as you went to the right city. You can check. They'll have like a couple different places you can go to, and then you go there, and they'll say like someone will say, "I saw the suspect." It's always the same stuff. Like, I saw the suspect say the suspect said she really likes Mexican food, which seemed to come up all the time. Or I saw the suspect had a tattoo, or something like that. And then so the more details you get on the suspect's identity, you can go to Interpol and apply those details. Then it will kind of weed down like which possible crooks it could be in this gang. After you've got a warrant, you can just look for clues of where they're going next, and you try to catch up. Once you finally catch up with them, then they'll get arrested and you win. And after you win so many cases, your rank will go up. And then at a certain point, you get to go after Carmen Sandiego, who probably just does the same thing, but even more so. I can't really remember.
Right. SNES and Genesis versions have 30 cases. I don't know about the others.
I think I played through about 8 or 9 on the PC release. I didn't get the Carmen Sandiego, though she does call you up and taunt you as you arrest more and more crooks. She says, "You'll never catch me." And then there's some, I don't know if it's the same in all the other versions, but there's like a meta element. As you solve cases, you get faxes that are like hints to finding Carmen Sandiego, I think, in the late PC release. I don't know if anyone got far enough in that, but they actually hand you details about Carmen Sandiego, I think, which is kind of cool. So you're encouraged to keep playing with an FMV woman who talks to you about the cases, which is really...
That's the chief from the game show version.
Oh yeah, if you wanted to discuss the game show for one.
The problem is that looking for information takes time. You have like a pretty limited amount, so you really got to know what you're doing, or you're going to run out of time and lose your person.
Right, yeah. So every place you go or thing you do eats up a little bit of time. And if it takes time to travel, it takes time to, I guess, walk to the municipal center or whatever, like the generic places you go to are, and et cetera. And it takes time to, like, you eat up a little bit of time applying for a warrant and stuff like that. And you've usually got, I think it's, at least as far as I played into the game, I played about maybe 10 cases the other day. And it was always about, I think they give you, like, you start on a Monday and you have to finish by like 5 p.m. on Sunday, because after that, as we all know, criminals are just gone forever and you'll never catch them again.
Well, the plot on the version I had was that if you didn't catch them, they were going to hand off what they stole to Carmen Sandiego. And once Carmen Sandiego got it, that was it. Like that was she's going to fence it or something. It was gone. So you had to catch them before Carmen Sandiego disappeared forever with whatever they stole.
Or you could just put out like an APB. Hey, if somebody's selling a Yeti, let the police know about it.
I love that, like, all the locations, people know, like, the criminal, and sometimes they seem, like, really intimate, like, oh, I was having brunch with the criminal, and they said that they were gonna go to France.
Talking to these people, why do they only give you, like, one bit of information at a time?
Yeah, like, if you're close enough to them to know they have a tattoo, you could probably also tell me what their hair color is.
Yeah, and don't tell me in pun form, thank you.
They're actually really well written. Like, the dialogue is interesting, the words, and they use a lot of, like, not standard words. Like, if they, instead of using, like, like hair or something, they might say locks or just another word for hair, and they'll constantly throw at you, like, more complicated words. So it's not just about teaching some vague geography and some vague city stuff. They do actually try and expand your vocabulary as well. So,
or they just really wanted to make third graders feel stupid.
Well, I think that one of the ways it does this is to make kids feel stupid. It's important. You got to make sure that you got to keep them down all the time.
I want to go into segue a bit. I do admit there are times when I have gotten a bit had trouble with this game. Some of the clues can be kind of weird and obscure. Like, one example, I had a clue, 2 clues that said that they were going somewhere with a red, white, and blue flag, and a place where they had dollars. Turns out it was Australia.
That's true. We have those.
Yeah,
Get your own money.
They do kind of throw curveballs at you like that. I think I got tripped up having gone to Canada by accident with dollars, as far as that's concerned.
Well, yeah, because I mean,
you're supposed to weed out these things. That's why you've got your world almanac thing that it comes with, which I believe is like a real functional book. Like one of the weirder ones I find is like where you find out what kind of like precious metals or something that they are interested in mining. Like I hear your suspect is really interested in like nickel or something like that, and that means that's Montreal or something. You know,
I have got a real hankering for bismuth. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's part of the thing is like you're not supposed to really you're not supposed to ask get one clue from someone and be like, okay, I know where to go. You are supposed to kind of balance how many questions you ask the various people, because that obviously takes time.
In fact, I think all of the countries chosen and all of the suspect fake bios and stuff are made so that there could be more than one answer if you just look at one clue. So
the thing that annoys me, I really hate it when you know where you're supposed to be going next, but you're really trying to find information what they look like and no one's giving it up.
Yeah, I've come across this too. How much they tell you can be a crapshoot sometimes. You don't get enough to narrow it down to one suspect before you get to the suspect.
You really have to look carefully at those character bios. I had the same problem at first, and I was like, oh, you just really got to pay attention to those character bios. And because usually the cool thing is that when you're applying for a warrant, I love how we're all adults talking about how challenging this kids game. It's probably when we were 8 years old, we had no problem.
Though it's not a traditional game. It's not the same.
Right. I mean, it's supposed to trick them into reading and learning. Yeah, you really have to. You have to pay attention to those things. But the cool thing is that when you apply for a warrant, it'll narrow it down for you. So it'll say well, I know that their hair is red and that it's a woman. And then it will just narrow it down to whose hair is red and who's a woman. And then you can read those 2 bios. And then the next place you go to, you'll probably be able to figure it out. I always got a warrant really early on, usually by the second city.
I guess we should point this out because I think Bob may be trying to point it out, is that different versions, I think the early versions you have criminal bios, but by the time you get to the last version, the criminals don't have a specific identity. Instead, they feed you their looks and their apparel, and you have to actually narrow it down to exactly every aspect of it and then get a warrant for exactly what they look like. Then when you go to the final location, you have to find someone who matches that exact description.
Oh, okay. So that is...
What I was going to say, though, is you actually have to be really careful with your warrant, because it's possible you can get the wrong warrant, and when you find the guy you've been trying to catch, then you lose the case because you found the wrong guy.
Then you got a Section 1983 suit to deal with, and it's a whole other problem.
If you don't get a warrant and you try and arrest the person, even if you're right, they'll say, you don't have a warrant, and you lose. You immediately lose the case, and there's this whole thing.
In spite of all that, did anyone at any point feel like the game was deliberately trying to pull a gotcha on you, as far as just really trying to trip you up with
I noticed that almost every female suspect loves tennis.
That sounds like kind of a stereotype almost.
Well, I mean, it's just there's only so many details they have in there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Their hobbies are croquet, tennis, mountain climbing, and maybe 2 other things or something like that. And so and because right from the beginning that you're always told the sex of the criminal, it's that's one detail already. So you find there's all the male suspects have a lot of the same traits, and all the female suspects have a lot of it seems like something that they probably intended to have a little bit more differentiation there, and then it just made the game too easy, so they had to make the criminals more samey. And then evidently they found a solution to that by just changing the whole way they do criminals.
Yeah, they changed the mechanism.
Did anyone legitimately learn anything about geography playing this?
That's a good question. How educational is this entertainment game, really?
I mean, that's one of the things. I think that the part of the trick is that, at least in the earlier versions of the game, is that the World Almanac has a bunch of superfluous information, which you don't actually need to solve any of the crimes, I think, ever. But you will learn because you got to look through these things until you memorize those facts. And sure enough, you will memorize the facts of the game after playing for like an hour. Like, there's a lot of stuff you'll learn.
That they do, like, you know, I had to look up, like one of the areas I got was like, oh, they're in some desert, and I'm like, oh crap, desert. All right, I'll look up desert. So I typed desert into the search in the Aramaic on the version, and then it's like 42 responses, and I'm like, so I had to click through a whole bunch of information on deserts, and you can be sure that not every one of those deserts is going to come up in the game, but they're there, and they'll tell you information.
You will know.
And
you will be
like,
yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Is like, by teaching kids to be vaguely aware that Montreal is on the St. Lawrence River, did you really teach them anything? Like,
I will admit something. I didn't know what San Marino or the Union of the Comoros was before playing this. Then again, world geography is an incredibly poor subject I have on Jeopardy, so maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't know.
That was kind of cool. It's like they didn't place like the cities, even in the oldest versions of the game. There's not that many places you can go to, but they didn't make them like all the obvious spots. It's not like every place is like Tokyo.
It's pretty good as far as edutainment games go. Most edutainment games are either like really, really obvious about edutainment, like Math Blaster. It's like, you're learning math. Like, it's really clear and obvious. Whereas Carmen Sandiego, I think it's great that it kind of like, well, Carmen Sandiego is in a place with lots of llamas, and it's like, I guess I need to learn where the llamas are at. Like, it encourages you to learn without quite fixating you on learning.
So, I mean, I think we've kind of sidled our way into the ranking segment of this.
Mm-hmm. May I say one more thing?
Yes.
I might have touched on this already, but the 95 version also has a FMV of Lynn Thigpen, the chief from the game show version of the game, which I'd also say is a plus in its favor.
The Warriors have made their way to Morningside Park. Yes. Look out, Warriors.
Wait, she was in the Warriors?
Yeah, she's the DJ.
You only see her lips. It's awesome.
It's pretty cool, though. Her voice is great, and it's great in Carmen Sandiego. It adds a lot of theme,
Listen
I guess.
Up, gum shoes.
Yeah, I don't understand why she wasn't
says that. She literally says that. I don't know if you pick it up.
Yeah, I don't understand why she wasn't just the overall host. Instead, it was just like some guy as the host, and she was the chief.
Listen, Lick Thinkpan's got a busy schedule. You want Lick Thinkpan's time? You better have the dime.
This is going to be tricky. We have like nothing else to base this off of. This is our first edutainment game.
I thought a lot about how to rank this because, like,
that's true. We gotta kind of imagine that we're like no more than 10 years old and living like before the internet. And,
I mean, this game is definitely a product of its time. It doesn't work today. That's unfortunate. Because it's really good.
If you do have to look it up, like if you have to look up like what the like chief like metal exports of Mali are, like you will still have to learn that fact. Like, in
the good thing is a lot of the facts in the game are not too topical. Like, it's a lot of stuff that's kind of like, yeah, it's probably true now as much as it was 10, 20 years ago.
Czechoslovakia is part of the Soviet Union, which will be around forever.
All right, so we're ranking this. It's a game, but it's also edutainment, and that makes it very hard to measure up against games that are basically, I'm trying to be fun. Fun.
If it's not like, if it's edutainment, it still has to edutain. I guess, so the question is whether you were not just whether you were educated, but also whether you were entertained. Hence, edutainment. Imagine my fingers interlocking when I say that, because that's what I'm doing.
This is like the edutainment game. It was the edutainment to popularize all edutainment. So how should we rate it up just due to its status alone, whether or not it holds up really today?
Well, yeah, I mean...
it's so weird because it's like, what am I like? You know what? I think Where in the World of Carmen Sandiego, is it better than Alien Soldier? Like, you know, like what kind of
That's a good
can
point.
you decide?
Well, look, at the end of the day, you're looking at, does it deliver on its promise? Does it succeed at what it sets out to do?
I don't think there's any question that Carmen Sandiego is genuinely top 5 edutainment games. I mean, One thing to think about is like how many different versions of the game there are that didn't really change too much about the main formula of the game, which says that the formula was done really well. It was really well executed to begin with. And that's one of the reasons why I played the earliest version of the game, is because I really wanted to see
whether like, you know, in 1985, like how sophisticated of a game was it? And it's really good. Like, yeah, you have to look at books, but that's the point. Does it trick you into learning stuff? Yeah, even as an adult, it tricked me into learning a couple things.
Yeah, like that's, you know, that's impressive. I think it does exactly what it wants to do. I remember being a kid playing Carmen Sandiego, and I was like, this is fun. You know, I wasn't like, oh, it's teaching me this game sucks. Like, no.
Yeah, it was fun. And it's got like, you know, like I wish that the characters were a little bit cooler, other than Carmen Sandiego, who was awesome.
I'm going to throw out just a completely arbitrary place, and let's see if we can work from there. Between Super Castlevania 4 and FTL. I don't know why I thought that. It's just the first place my eyes went to.
I would put...
So can we iterate who we need to blame for us having to rank this game? Because this is...
No, I mean, but it's good. Like, I don't know, as like in terms of edutainment, I'd say I personally, although Oregon Trail is not on the list, I feel like Oregon Trail gives you a lot more not useful information, but
Oregon Trail is kind of more of a game.
Well, it's also more of a game, but this is it's a game. Like you have to, you're playing by the rules of the game, and you do have to do the stuff that it's game-like. I mean, it's look. I mean,
it's clever. What it does is it replaces like if this was, because I could totally see this being like a modern indie game, but all of the information is just made up, and you just have to read through like made up histories and things, and then learn and then that's what you have to do. This just takes the idea of a game and then goes, okay, but let's make it so that instead of learning about fictional stuff, it's non-fiction, and you're trying to, and that's what works so well about this is it's like instead of learning like all this like fantasy details in order to
undead enemies will get killed if you throw a potion at them because they're not alive.
Exactly, except instead it's like, well, here's the national currency of Singapore. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing is like, look, education is for losers. And losers, no. I mean, look, all the stuff that you're teaching kids is arbitrary, pointless facts that you can look up at any time as an adult, and you don't actually need to know. You don't need to know that.
You don't need to know the primary export of Iceland.
Right. That's right.
It's fish.
But you're teaching them something, and it is better than regular school. And but I would say, like, what I was going to say about Oregon Trail, which is that Oregon Trail actually teaches you some in-depth knowledge about what it was like to be human at a specific time and place in the past that you won't really, I mean, it's kind of giving you a little bit more of something special that only a game could give you. You don't really think about these concerns when you're reading a book. They can tell you that people died of like diarrhea, you know, on the wagon trail, you know, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. But if you like in the game, you're like, oh my God, people like lost their kids doing this stuff. They like, you know, they're like, I'm going to move to, you know, past the Rocky Mountains. That's like a big deal, you know, and you like people lost family. Like you're learning something a little bit about like the human experience at a time that you can't actually live in. That's doing something with edutainment and education that you can't do outside of a video game as easily. Whereas
I mean, the thing is,
Sandiego is not really doing that much other than just kind of like, it's kind of sugarcoating the knowledge pill, I guess.
As I might have mentioned, Oregon Trail is a bit more, it's like American centric in that.
Yeah, but
Carmen Sandiego gives you an appreciation for like how big the world is. Like when you play it, you're like,
but what I'm saying is that like what it's teaching you is not necessarily like.
I don't think either game is teaching you that much useful knowledge. It's just knowledge.
I mean, in a way, but I would say like in a way, what Carmen Sandiego teaches you how to do is actually teaches how to read and retain information, which is really directly important. That's the real point of the game, is teaching you how to, which is why I think Papers, Please is one of the greatest edutainment games of all time. I mean, I would put it pretty high. Like I'm saying, like
I'm okay with under Castlevania, I guess.
I'm going to put it under Faster Than Light.
Okay. One space down. I'm all right with that.
I think it's kind of arbitrary because we just, you know.
But it is a fun game. Like I had fun playing it, and I'm a grown man, so like
I mean, like if you haven't actually played Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, I would actually recommend just checking out the PC version because it hasn't aged that much. It's pretty neat.
Also, Check out my Carmen Sandiego DeviantArt page.
Well, she sneaks around the world from Kiev to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slow boat to China. Tell me, where in the world is
Carmen Sandiego? Yeah.